Hello there. My name is Mitchell Mickey Toy, one candidate 94 in the Toronto mayoral election, and this is By a Thread, episode 3. Today we are joined with the lovely, brave, intelligent, creative, and of course, uh, one of the best mayoral candidates we have. Somebody who has an extensive resume, extensive skill set, and a large heart to match it. Philip de Cruz, please introduce yourself and take as long as you want. I know that you have quite a history to talk about here.
My ego's feeling that nice compliment. My gosh. Hi, my name's Philip de Cruz. I'm running for mayor of Canada. I'm number 34 on the list there, number lucky seven. So, anyways, my platform is all about the people. Like last year, it's the same platform, a little bit of additions on for the crime and TTC. But my first thing is about rent reduction. It's a provincial thing, I know. I still work for Ottawa with government, for the military. I've worked with all four levels. I've talked about this. It can be attainable not impossible, but it can be attainable once you've asked for it. Also, rent control, which should have been done during the COVID, before even the COVID ended. My second platform is food security. You go on my platform, my website, you'll see my plan for a food depot, food distribution, reducing that 900 million wasted every year in Toronto on food wastage. I'm not talking about garbage. We're talking about good food. Packages that are dented, bruised. They go presentation doesn't go on the shelf, and they just get thrown away. And my third thing is going at the landlords, big time landlords. We heard all the stories. There's no protection for Torontonians. Not one candidate talks about any of these three items I talk about, basically, and that's what's missing.
I completely agree. We've seen real estate investment trust portfolios by the Big Six. We see a history of city councilors siding with these large corporate landlords that are buying up houses that people are selling to help their own kids pay for rent. So when you mention rent reduction, um, have you heard about the fact, Philip, that there are over 10 times the empty homes in Toronto than the homeless population currently? And another fun fact for you is that if every homeless person in the United States, of course, that's different than Canada, but if every homeless person in the United States was given a vacant home, there would be 14 million vacant homes left over. So, what is the guts, the organs, the facet, the function of your rent reduction plan, and how will you truly fight or take a bite out of poverty in your first term?
That's funny you mentioned about the empty homes. Last year in our debate at university, housing came up. We talked about it. We all know about 1.3 million houses have been recorded and fact that all over Toronto, 1.3 million houses sitting empty alone, have been touched. In apartment buildings around all these wards, in my ward and three other wards around me, can't last year, 52 empty apartments sitting there untouched. People want to build housing. They want to do homeless. First of all, homeless is shelters are not the answer. They just last year they just put down the $300 million wasted in shelters in 10 years. If you take that $300 million, if you had bought all these a bunch of houses and rented these apartments with the government, working with the government like you do with people with mental health and other problems, like in my building, we got about 30 people with mental health issues, disabilities, and the government pays for that. So easy, you know. My apartment right across from me. Sat there for 8 months. I talked to the property owners. They said, if we can work with the government, we just want to build, they'll pay for the rent, subsidize it. Too easy. All this promising of housing, it takes 5 years to build a condo, right? So in the meantime, while you're waiting all the promises of housing and buildings and condos, the increase of homelessness will come up because rent has gone up. In the next 3 years, like all these candidates, I got nothing against them personally. I've met most of them; they're pretty good people. But the fact is, if you look at other plans, not one plan takes in consideration that in the next 5 years, homelessness will increase, rent has gone up, people will be living on the streets, plus refugees will be coming in from other countries, plus also, you got to take it back, climate factors, natural disasters. And where do they come to first? Canada. So none of the plans, like even Mitzi Hunter's, all her plans, I looked at her 74-page plan, it's a long one, and I said, what are the factors considering of the extra people coming into the country? You haven't considered that. And
Yeah,
that's the only
93% of Pakistan's population is homeless now due to massive climate-based floodings. And we're seeing pretty major issues. But when we're talking about development, we see that Ford wants to destroy the green belt for more housing and for more highways. We see I know you talked about rezoning. And when I hear rezoning, I hear new developments that don't have rent control, new developments that aren't community owned, new developments that are once again for-profit housing. When I personally believe that housing shelter is a universal human right, and I
Yes.
believe that we're not properly dealing with this. And I completely agree that the funding for shelters could have been used to buy or subsidize rent for people with these issues.
Yeah.
With that being said, I think that we have a good view of what you want to do on rent reduction, but how do you feel about community land trusts, like communities being a municipal or provincial or federal-based mortgage system so that communities can be run democratically? We've seen public housing, we've seen endless wait lists. Have you ever heard of the Vienna model,
Yeah.
Philip, which
Yes.
is
Yes.
80% public, 20% private? How do you
Yeah.
feel about that kind of model? And let's say you were elected mayor for 10 years. At the start of your term and at the end of that decade, what would be the difference between the housing model now and what would be the housing model or the living model of shelter in Toronto after that 10 years of you being reelected, you having that influence?
We mentioned rezoning, right? Rezoning, but new housing. But the problem is, like, to give you an example, across the street, I'm up Victoria Park in Ellesmere. Right across the street is an old rezoned area, and it's funny. Like, they build these new houses. Just an example, 1.3 million houses, and it's still got the Toronto address because it hasn't been rezoned in how many years? 30 years. So when you go buy a house there, the property tax is about 3,000 a year. 3,000 a year. That's low property tax, right? So to rezone that area, you've got to go deep down and find the originator, right? Like this building here, on this property here, it's an old rezoned area. It's higher tax than across the street. Just across the street, what's the big difference? They want to rezone these areas. You know what the problem is? They're not looking into the old neighborhoods. They're saying we're going to rezone this, but every neighborhood has a reason why it's just developed like that, right? Like there's a church on Victoria Park in Lawrence. They couldn't put a traffic light there because the old zoning law says it's prohibited. So between Victoria Park and Pharmacy, there's a big long gap, right? And there's an old church. Just a crude example. It took them 4 years to fight for a traffic light because there were so many fatalities. There's like about 3 or 4 side roads coming between Victoria Park and Pharmacy because it needs to be rezoned. That's just an example. Even in Tobico, I don't know if you heard of Jennifer Alexander. She lives in Tobico. She directs the Tobico Boys. Her area where she goes to take her kids to school, you see the picture? There's not one traffic light there. It's not even a crosswalk, and they're like playing with their lives. That's all rezoning. They're talking about housing, rezoning, but you also got a rezoning for structure for safety for kids. A lot of these schools have gone up, but they've gone up in old rezoned areas, and the laws don't apply. Right? You've seen it. Kids rush to school, take their parents. There's no zoning laws to protect these kids, safety wise. Just an example. So as for housing, like I said, if I had $300 million right now, what they did, like it pisses me off, wasted all that money for shelters. We both know shelters are not the answer, right? If you go to my pod, you probably saw one of my interviews with a couple from Lisbon. They actually conquered uh this one wasn't what city was. They conquered shelters, reduced it to 2% by putting people in homes, setting up permanent programs, and that's a problem. We have programs that are not self-efficient. They don't go all the way. For example, like if you have a mental issue or a problem, they put you in a home, they give you this program. But every program is catered to each person. Like some people have good days, some people have bad days. I got three friends, best friends. Two have security dogs, and they have good days and bad days. And where you're with that. Problem is, there's no system set up to work in individuality. It's all a conglomerate, meaning you go there, do the program. If you don't succeed, you're out, and that's a problem. You can't just give up on people. It's an ongoing thing. I've talked, Isabella, we talked about this many times about ODSP and stuff. You
Mhm.
know, there's
You're
no,
right on
there's
with that.
no, oh, there's no ableism. There's nothing we talk about. We'll go ahead and dug into that. But I'm just saying, there's no confidence in the people. People don't want to vote because they don't care because the city don't care. City council not adjusting them, but you know what? Look at the last 8 years. They still want the same status quo. But I bet these top six in there. Have you seen the debates? And everybody says the same
Yeah.
thing. I get all the emails. Boring. Where's the personality? Mundane. And this is the answer. One guy calls them recycled candidates. I got nothing against them, but you know what? If you didn't apply last year to apply when Troy's running, we did. Why are you doing it this year? Stop being self-absorbed. Stop being self-possessed. It's not a title, as people think. It's not a title. Mayor should be mayor for all, not mayoral, right? But that's the thing. If you can't serve the people, why are you taking the job?
We
Look at
don't
okay,
have.
all these people are I put this on Twitter. I asked them other questions. I said, you know what? You're all planning these promises of billions of dollars. You know the money's going to come from there. I asked them, tell the voters where you're getting the money from, because the promise said twice no money for the city of Toronto, and they all got they're going to take money from the police fund, the subsidized, and all. Yeah, that's nice. That's really great, but put it on paper. Say you got a promise. If you go on my website, you seen there,
Mhm.
Mitchell. I got no numbers. I said I didn't have a debate. I won't lie to anybody. They're gonna ask where's the money gonna come. I said I don't know. I haven't gone to the city hall yet. I can't be a hypocrite. I'll go in there and freeze the funds and check it out.
And a lot
You
of
know.
those funds, we don't see the real costs. We don't
Oh,
know the real
you see
budgets.
some
It's
of
always
this.
increasing.
Oh
It's
yeah. Or
always
you see like
increasing.
some of the example. Like I just said, $300 million, 300 million wasted in house in shelters, $40 million wasted in consultation fees. What you paid $40 million to talk to somebody?
Over
Remember the hotel downtown, that homeless shelter hotel, $50 million wasted, and nobody occupied it. There was a catering service in there. That's just it is. The problem is these people have money, they're well to do, and that's great. That's fine if you're rich. And I've talked to people about my program. People that are rich say, "Who cares about food?" But it's a crummy program. I say, because you don't care because it doesn't appeal to you. Your 6% are happy with what you got. It's 80% of the rest are suffering, and you don't give a shit about us because you're not looking at us. And you know what? But something that this whole election, there's not one community feedback. You're never going to be interviewing saying, I hate that candidate, I don't like what he does, or I'm not satisfied with his program. You never hear that. You used to go on my website, I do a few interviews with people about frustration, how they feel and all that. I'm going to add a few more. You don't hear that. I interviewed a lady the other day on the phone, and her name's Connie Harrison. She asked for the interview. She's a senior living in a neglected apartment. It's an hour and a half, and she wanted to come on and vent. I said, you know what? Come on. If you want to complain, you want to swear, come and talk. I want people to hear what you're going through. She has no security building. She's got a tainted pedophile roaming around, stealing off people, going to people and ripping off seniors. There's no security,
wow.
and yeah, it's just you should hear the interview. It's volatile. And I just it's just an example of neglect. This is all total neglect. These status quo candidates want their own people back in there for the same reason, and what's going to happen in the next 4 years. The same thing, right? The same thing, and they think all the
Bought and paid
promises.
for. Bought and paid
But
for.
yeah, they got the yeah, well, I looked in their history. Bradford's already got his condo guys all ready to go. All the developers already to sign off. They got the plans already to go. Just a case of you know, once election's over. So
And then as soon as they're out of office, if they're unpopular, boom, corporate job. We see it with the NDP, we see it with the Liberals, we see it with the Conservatives. But to keep things moving along, I want to hear about your food waste reduction plan in person. And when you were talking about the rich, one of the things we always hear is that the law is equal. But even though a rich person would get arrested for sleeping in a park, a rich person has a home. Even though a rich person would get arrested for stealing bread, a rich person has the money to buy bread. So when we see our laws being used against the poor, and then the root of their poverty, the root of their houselessness, the root of these issues, well, food rots, people starve, how would you try to deal with this with your food waste reduction plan? And how does this build into your larger ability to deal with poverty and houselessness as mayor?
I just want to get a joke. You mentioned about the rich.
Sure.
I get an example. You got homeless camps, tents sitting in parks, homeless, confiscated by the police. Okay, you tell me you're gonna have if the rich people are gonna have a party, let's go camp out in a park. We're having overnight sleepover. Are they gonna get confiscated? No, right? Why not? They're tents. They're in a park, just like the homeless, right? Because they're low income. They're rich. See the difference? The prejudice is right there. I guarantee. I bet you know what? I bet those encampments, if they had like more than 10 people that are standing community members, like they're rich and healthy, none of that would have happened. You know. So that's my little joke.
That would be a good candidate pledge. Whichever candidates have those tents, go down there, stand with them, camp with them. I
Canadian
would
Tire is
love to
special.
see
Yeah.
that. I would love
But you
to
know
see
what?
Olivia Chow. I'd
Now,
love to see Mitzi Hunter camping out there with them.
now, what I've been on the streets. You know that I've lived on the streets. I used to sleep on
Same
the
here.
that right down. Yeah, you too. See, we can relate. See, none of these people relate with us. They haven't talked about poverty because they haven't been through all what we've been through, right? I used to sleep on the walkway over the city hall, right by the end. I used to have my back to the wall. So just in case I got mugged, right? This is when I was on the streets here. I used to go down in the morning, Salvation Army truck, 6 o'clock. They come around. They always give you a Bible. I don't know why. They always give you a little Bible every time you come. They give you a Bible. Here's today's reading. They give you an option what you want. Soup. They always give you porridge. I hate porridge. But I asked these cats, I said, can you tell me where the nearest Salvation Army truck comes in the morning? Just give me a place. Couldn't talk about it. They didn't answer. You know why? They don't care, right? So food thing, that's my biggest thing. We had a food bank debate last 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And what did they talk about? Housing. Not one thing about food banks in a food depot. Can you believe that? So I've been involved with food banks, not food banks, for food industry for 25 years. Second Harvest last year came out a report in February, and Lori Nicole, part of that branch there, and she stated over $900 million wasted in food alone in Toronto. And the reason it gets wasted is there's no system set up to pick it up or distribute it or pass a bylaw. If I was mayor, I already said it last year, in some of the cities that around the world, go look it up. They have a bylaw passed. You cannot throw away good food. It's illegal. You can't waste food. People think when you say like leftover foods like garbage, like crap. That's not true. I'll give you an example. Most major food companies have a 20-25% wastage factor, meaning like no frills, pasta goes there. Presentation is the biggest thing. It arrives at the grocery store, it gets unpacked, it's got a dent, it's got a mark, or a little tear, not even open, but just a tear. It won't go on the shelf because it's part of presentation. And they'd rather have it tossed in the garbage than spend the money to return the item,
And now they'll
right?
padlock the garbage so people can't even dumpster dive.
Yeah, and now they make it a byline. I know. Yeah, so that's just one example. Also, like grocery stores, I know a lot of butchers, a lot of Italian guys. They tell me the same thing. We get this chicken by the bundle, and we got a quota to fill up by certain numbers and wrap it up. And what they do with leftover chicken, all brand new, nothing wasted, goes in the garbage. There's no system. So if you go on my website, I got a depot I set up. I used to work at a factory. I sent it to Ottawa last year. They liked it. They said it would cost me 2.5 million just to set up one depot, one place. You go see the picture there. I just drew it up.
Yep,
Just an idea.
I'm going to insert the picture right here. We're going to see the
Okay.
picture on screen right here. And
Yeah.
why don't
And
you tell us a little
it's
bit about this food depot that we have on the screen right now? I'll
yeah.
superimpose it over the
So what
video.
happened? Just you see my other picture there. The truck set up with the truck system. They're cool trucks. They're all electric, no gas. They make it around. Say one grocery store, Longo. They go make the rounds to like 10 Longo grocery stores. They pick up leftover food like chicken. That's all leftover, but it goes in containers, sealed containers, and it's marked and dated what time it was open, what time it was processed. Then you got a curtain to work with it. So they pick up that plastic bin like a diaper bag, I guess. They put in the cold truck. They make the rounds. They go to the food depot. They picture the food depot. You come in there. You go through processing, receiving. You go through quality check. Canada has one of the highest standards of quality check for safety in food, not like the States. So it goes through about 2 or 3 quality checks, and by the way, it's going to be government run. It's not subsidized because you subsidize something, people's going to make a profit. We don't make a profit, right? So it gets quality control, it gets sterilized, it gets processed, and it gets sorted to food banks or soup kitchens, low income families, ODSP, commissaries, and whatever's wasted. And it's also the planets in the picture you see. It's solar panel. It's all solar panels. It's all
Yeah, I
recycled.
was just about to mention
Yeah.
that, the fact
And
that
I
you're
also
using
I didn't
renewable
I
energy.
something I didn't draw in the picture, but I was gonna add. You're gonna laugh at this. I made a leeway for the future for cold fusion. Ever heard of that cold fusion?
I have heard about cold fusion.
Oh
I
yeah,
know
you know.
you were talking about how it takes 5 years to build a condo. Speaking of
Yeah,
cold fusion, I heard that in China, one, they've done a single day skyscraper with 3 8-hour shifts and a
yeah.
lot of 3D printing technology. And two, their cold fusion experiments are still outpacing the United States. And if China achieves cold fusion, we're going to see a massive change in how energy is done. But if you have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it. But another thing I'd like to put up is that food depot that you have seems to have showers. Would those
Yes.
showers be available for the same people that are having trouble getting the food, getting hygiene as well?
Well, I don't picture in the picture there on the side. There's a cafeteria. There's a kitchen set up. There's a whole like a lounge and an outdoor area that is set up. Yeah. It's
Beautiful.
funny you mentioned about showers. I like to, like you go camping now. Now they have showers. Before they didn't have that. Like
Oh,
little
yes.
I would like to see them in Toronto. Why do we have that? The homeless.
I completely agree. On our beaches, we need. I one of the things I was saying is that the transitory system is putting up the porta potties and then building, wash. We need clean water. We need places where people can get energy, maybe even plug in or use a small grill that might be
Mhm.
on renewable uses that has safe, secure 24/7, washrooms, and we need those everywhere. As and in as many major places as possible. And I heard in France they had such a bad public urination problem because these Frenchmen, they like to drink, they like to party, but they also like to publicly urinate. They put urinals, like zero water urinals, right next to the garbage cans that have these dividers, so drunken people can just go up to them, or perhaps somebody with using a funnel if they don't have that equipment, just urinating right there after I believe 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. But it's just interesting, these
Yeah, because
small
they're
fixes
yeah.
that we could have, but we
And
never implement, we
well,
never
that's what
standardize
you hit it right
progress.
there. Because they're catering to the people's needs, and with this city does not cater to anybody's needs right now. You talk about those. They talk about fire a homeless camp under the bridge. You know what? How about put a socket like you just put a outlet there, right? It's not undoable. So that way they can plug something in rather than causing a fire. People say, oh, they're causing fires, but we don't help them. Why do we need to help them? There are shelters. Well, they don't want to go to shelters. Why can't they live on their own? Why can't you go to a place like other cities done? Tent City,
Yeah.
originated back in Los Angeles. We have it not called Tent City, but something else. But like you said, we don't like the porta potties and the showers talking about. We don't help people on the needs. You invest in the people in the needs to give them dignity, right? And they help. They give back to the community. I'll give you an example. I was in Los Angeles on the ship. We got off ship. We were walking around, and there's this park there. And this park was raised funds by the homeless. Ever heard of this?
No, tell me more.
Yeah, the story was these kids, this park got demolished by the high school or the grade school. Something happened, and there used to be a lot of tents and homeless camps around the area. So these three homeless guys, I don't know the names. This is a long time ago. They saw the situation, so they decided to raise funds by collecting bottles, doing errands, doing chores, cleaning cars, cutting grass, all from the homeless. So if you go to the park to this day, like we saw the sign that and the people told the story, there's a sign that says this park is dedicated to our community children, given by the people of the streets, not homeless people of the streets. Actually that inspired me when I was in the military about community giving back. I said that's amazing. And we met one guy that actually helped do that, and he told us the whole story, how it started up, and they had a lot of they had a lot of fun. They had a lot of fighting from the community not to get it done because they were homeless. They're saying, "What do you know? What do you want? Why are you interfering with our children?" They weren't interfering with the children. They just wanted something to do with the kids, and they did. That's See, they invested
They're
in the
people
people, and the
and they
people
care.
invested back in the community, right? You know, that's the thing. We can do this, and nobody talks about that. Brad Bradford's the housing guy. And I asked him, "What are you doing about the homeless?" Well, we're going to put these condos, we're going to put these shelters, and the whole affordable housing percentage from when you build a condo, you get so.
Affordable for who, Brad? Affordable for
Well,
who,
that's like,
Olivia? Fair,
hey, that's
affordable for who? They're all
that's the big
saying
mystery.
30% affordable. Affordable for who?
That's it. That's the big mystery. I haven't got an answer. Seriously, where's affordable? If you're below that, you get a
Rent
house, you got
geared to
condo.
income? Because that's affordable. Like
Yeah.
if shelter's a human right, have it geared to income. Anything that a person can't do, have it subsidized, have it made up. Like and speaking of giving back to the people, Philip, you talked about big landlords. So I'm definitely curious, how are you going to go after these leeches? How are you going to go after these mafiosos? How are you going to take out this organized crime that continues
Oh
influencing
my
our
God.
politics?
Well, this is going to
How
be
are you
a
going after them?
we got a property manager right now going through N5. We all got N5s who wants to evict us. She doesn't look at the rent. Our rent's included with our parking. This is an example. Oh, there's about 30 of us. But no, they didn't look at the old lease. So we said, go get our lease. Oh, we can't find it. The last landlord took all the paper. Really? I said, you're going to go to court? They're going to laugh you in the face. You got a copy of your lease? We have the original lease. That's an example. Okay, why don't we go landlords? I talked to bylaw officers. The thing is, the problem is they don't have enough fines. The fines are not high enough. Example. the fine for a place, something that has been done, has to be redone, or they have double checked. Like now, they just charge the lady $400. They're gonna come again 2 weeks, charge another $400, and they say raise the fine because the fine's the same rate for factories, condos, buildings, companies. They should raise that, right? I'll give you an example. Um, we had a meeting for a tenant association there a couple months ago, so we asked the question, how many people have problems with the apartment? We had 30 people there. Everybody put up their hands. So if you say this, 1,000 for each person that hasn't got nothing done in their apartment for a certain time period. So that's 1,000 times 30 people. That's 30 grand right there. Do you want to bring money to the city? Go after these landlords, increase the fines, no leeway, saying we'll just get off with the technicality. Increase, I guarantee you, as a mayor, I
Yeah.
guarantee I've already calculated. In 1 year, if you pass the law, go after landlords and make them applicable, you will get a couple million in the city alone. And also, I believe they should take a course. Every landlord, property manager, the superintendent be registered course with the landlord association because they don't have nothing. Because anybody can, you've seen the landlord. Oh, you're my buddy. Come be a landlord. Come be a superintendent. I can tell you horror stories. We had someone for a year. I had a guy here knocking on a door. Once I was in the bathroom, we had a pipe to fix the bathroom. Guy just came from Korea, not trained. He's knocking on the door. He says, I'm here to fix your pipe. I said, I'm yelling at the door. I'm in the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom. Go away. Come back. And then I got quiet. They knocks on my bathroom door. I'm sitting there. You know what I'm doing? I said, get the heck out of here, right? He knocks on the door. He wouldn't leave. I opened the door, stand there butt naked. I go, what's your effing problem? I said, buddy, what are you doing? He goes like this. Can I fix your pipe now? I go, I, oh my God. I
That
said,
sounds
get the
like something out of an adult video more than a
no, because
like.
it was I swear, if it was a woman doing that, I swear he'd be charged for assault. Seriously. But that's just an example. They gotta register, take a course, they gotta pass the course, and they gotta answer to a new affiliation, not the landlord association. Talk about the city. The city has nothing set up for the land to protect the citizens from the oh, you know what you gotta do? Redo that whole freaking tenancy board, you know, the way it's structured right now. Because tenants have no rights. They have no rights whatsoever.
No,
But I've
and
discovered a few.
they don't have like the judges on the LTB are mostly landowners. Like the professional class, the way they accrue wealth is through landlordism. And even the people like in The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, landlords were described as parasites. They don't build the house, they don't tend the land. What they do is ownership. And
Yeah.
speaking of ownership, how do you feel about worker democracy? How do you feel about community ownership? Not mandated, but something that the city municipally helps support. By the way, just to let you know, we only have 10 minutes in this part
Okay.
left. So let's make this the final question, and then we'll roll over into part two.
I just want to answer the landlord. We talk about landlords. I found a few ways tenants can have a right. Do you know about cash under the table? A lot of these
Yes.
landlords charge immigrants cash under the tables. Well, this building, I'm working with CRA, Canada Revenue Agency. If you go on their website, I'm going to make a video soon, post it. If you go on the website, it's illegal to take cash under the table from any tenant for fixing that's part of the contract, for example. You know, so the CRA in the CRA's view is called tax fraud, meaning if you take cash that's not accounted for as a landlord or superintendent and you don't make account for it and report it, it's called tax fraud because that tax money goes back into the city programs, services, back to the community, and that's a big no-no. So we're setting up right now with the CRA. I'm going to make a report. Like this building right now is under investigation by the CRA. We're getting an open file and they're going to investigate and they're going to come audit and they go right into everybody's books. People think the CRA doesn't investigate. They give me example. I talked to a lady I talked to told me the whole how they invest. They go and say you give somebody $400 cash, so that's investigated. They're going to go into their account, superintendent. They're going to see where that money went. Did they go into his account or somebody else's? That's how they investigate. They go right into it, and they're really good. That's just an example for tenants' rights. Tenants have the right to fight back by saying I'm paying cash. When I came into the building 18 years ago, a lady was paying $1,500 to get her floor done. Paid cash, no record whatsoever. Right? I reported him to the CRA. He got fired. He was gone just like that. You see? And that's
Uh,
part
my
of that's
my great grandmother would pay the super the superintendents at our building to do. She would give them 20 bucks here or there, or maybe even more. It's disgusting. We have elderly folks, we have immigrants who don't know the rules, we have people that are just genuinely uninformed that want things to be expedited, and these are multi-billion-dollar companies, some of them, that are
Oh
acting
yeah,
like slumlords,
like
and
leeches.
we
Yeah,
have no accountability. But speaking of which, apparently there are three major apartment buildings right now going on rent strikes, over
yeah.
300, 400 people. What do you think about, you were talking about a tenants association. I myself helped find the East Scarborough Tenants Union with Kiri Vetavilu back when we were both younger and less stressed, but still stressed.
Hey, you're the
But
guy he's talking about. You're the guy. I did an
yes,
interview with him. I did an interview with Curie on my pod show. If you watch it, there's a two-part interview. He talked about this guy, and you're the guy. That's so cool. That's cool. That is so. Talk about deja vu, eh?
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
he talked. Yeah,
it's an
that's funny. Kerry talked
interesting.
about this whole thing. Funny the landlords just had the whole story told on the interview, and that was yeah. That's and you're part of that. That's amazing. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
mean to cut you off there.
I think that the intersections, our work with Acorn, which fights for tenant unions, our
Yep.
work with the East Scarborough Tenant Union, ultimately was a failure into blossoming into a bigger organization. But Kiri was able to defeat his landlord. Spoilers for your
Yep.
podcast, but please check
Yeah.
out
No, that's
Philip's
okay. No, it's
podcast.
cool. It's
And
good,
and
good
and
story.
to
Yeah.
get back into it, how would you help facilitate or strengthen tenants unions? What do you think about the rent strikes, and do you encourage more people to go on rent strike? And during
Yes.
these strikes, we still have to pay that money to the LTB to avoid eviction. But what do you think about this whole thing, and how would you support it, or what are your thoughts more generally?
You know, what I would like to do if you're not if something's not okay. Example, they had the hydro off 2 days in a row here. Just many fixings, plumbing and all. You know what? If you're not, it says in your contract you're supposed to supply as a landlord a livability space. If that space has been incarcerated or compromised, why should you pay a full day's rent for something you can't enjoy, right? So I say take a percentage off. It's like Rogers Cable. They always give you a credit if you don't get your good service, which is almost every week. So take a credit off. Seriously, these people on strike. Look at downtown Sherbourne. For the Sherbourne a couple of years, they had a bed bug problem. Guy did nothing. You know what? That's what I say. And people don't like this, but it's true. You want these guys to pay? Don't pay rent. Why should you pay rent? Seriously, I know it's a law you have to pay, but you know what? It should be put a bylaw. If you can't provide a sustained space, you pay for it out of your pocket, not the tenant.
Just so people
And you see that.
know, that if you do have these kind of problems and you report them to the LTB, you can pay your rent in lieu to the landlord to the LTB, which they'll hold on to it, and that is achieving the same thing. But if you can't do that, or if you haven't registered with the LTB, yeah, be late on paying it. Be late
Exactly.
on paying
Yeah.
your rent.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. Yeah, these landlords, and also they should be accountable. They should be heavily fined. And like two people I know, they said they haven't seen the landlord in 3 years. I said, you know what? If you go on inspection and go like what do you call it, full dive, send them bylaw officers, pick a building, go all the way, and people get lined up. Have a copy. I always have a copy of what you're reporting and we're complaining about, and show whatever's outstanding. Like the guy above me, 7 years waiting for a shower to get done. 7 years. Outstanding right there. Find the landlord, find the owner, big time. You see, they'll change your tune then when they got to answer the money right now, right? Because right now it's just like a couple of $200 a year. They can afford it, right? But you raise that fees. I'm talking about raising it. Because the thing with city council, when they do that, oh, we'll raise it by $50 or 100. That's not enough. That's just
Not
bull. Because
enough.
you don't care. It's
Should
not.
be proportional to how much they're making off their rents. It's just like in Finland, their speeding tickets are proportional to their finances.
Yeah, I
So
heard about
a
that. That's so
millionaire or
cool.
billionaire gets charged 100,000,
Yeah,
and a
yeah, yeah.
poor
That's
person
right.
gets charged $50.
Because
Why aren't
based
we
on your
making
based on your income, yeah.
I think you and I both agree all city fees should be proportional to income. Can we
That's
confirm that?
exactly right. That's right.
Beautiful.
I love that. Yeah, yeah. Well, you make 40 grand, here's your ticket. Should be automated,
Awesome.
right? Like that, yeah.
Completely. And how do you feel about perhaps the landlord tenant board literally containing tenants and landlords, maybe a council of tenants and landlords randomly selected or
I
volunteers,
said,
rather than these judges on these tribunals?
they got. I said earlier in our talk, you got to redo the whole tenancy board because it just sucks, right? There's no. I've heard people go in there to get the court or whatever the judge, they just in favor of the landlord all the time. What's he saying? You're wasting the city's time, right? You're wasting the people's money's time paying for legal aid or lawyers to go there for nothing. It's like a conglomerate of just a circle of nothing, you know. And they're like an 8 month delay, paperwork and all. It's all that red tape. I'm just saying, change the whole system. You know, you can't even kick people out when they're just bad tenants. You got to go through the whole process. It's
I
ridiculous.
think
Look at the
if there's
sorry, go
one
ahead.
thing I can agree with, it's changing the whole system.
You have
Um,
to like it's not working.
it's not working, and I think we can agree on that. Well, Philip, we're going to end the recording here and get
Yeah.
ready for part two. But
All right.
see you all back for part two, which we'll cut
Okay.
to now. Two, one. Welcome back to part two of By a Thread, episode 3, with candidate Philip the Cruz, number 34 on the ballot, hosted by me, Mitchell Toy, a much less skilled and prominent candidate, number
Ah, you're cool.
94.
You're a people
Uh,
guy.
I am, but the reason I started running, Philip, and you might relate to this, I think that you're definitely a lot more serious about it than I am, is because I wanted to change the conversation. I wanted to feel a part of this system, and I knew it wasn't working. I knew I wasn't going to win, but I knew that I might be able to have an impact, and we're having an impact right
Good.
now. Speaking of which, Phil, I was wondering, what's your favorite television show on right now? Let's have a
Right
question that
now,
we don't usually, yeah, or ever, whatever you want to talk about, just
General
something
Hospital.
light. General
Gen-
Hospital.
that's my secret. I've been watching that since 1980.
Isn't that the one that is that still on, or is that the one that
Oh
ends
yeah,
with it being an?
they just did their 50th anniversary not till then. I think they're doing 60th now over there. Yeah.
Doesn't one of the people have an eye patch in that one?
Oh no, that's Days of Our Lives. That's
Days of Our Lives.
yeah, that's
And
the
then
one.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about the one where it turns out to be a child thinking about the hospital in a snow globe, and the whole thing's in a snow globe. But
Oh, that's yeah.
I started watching the newest season of the cartoon Clone High that was back on 2003.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and me and my partner love watching RuPaul's Drag Race. That's pretty
Oh yeah,
fun.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
watching the All Stars season 8. But Philip, what is one question that you would want to ask me, or you would want me to ask you, that I haven't asked yet?
Oh. Uh. Oh. Controlled times of council members and emirs.
Controlled times of council members
Yeah,
and mayors?
time limit, time limits. I mean, some of these people have been there 25 years and on, right? Since the Sky Dome opened, or now Rogerson opened, you know. I mean, they're still there, prancing around. Like, I mean, nothing. I like them; they're all nice, but you know, time for a change. That's your example of this whole city, the way it is. No change, same councilors. You
So
know,
you want term limits on councilors and mayors?
it has to be. Yeah, every time. Like you know, even like a new mayor, like some people say 3 years the most, some people say 2 years. I say 2 years the most. They may say, well, by the time you get in to get things done, it takes another 4 years. Well, you know what? You can't solve everything. Like they say, whoever's going to be the mayor, whenever one of us, whoever the top one, you go with that attitude trying to convince voters you're going to solve everything. You're full of it, right? You can't solve housing crisis, right? And that should have been done years ago, 13 years ago. You know, you're going there to not just to fix a problem, but actually to repair the system, repair some of it. You know, you can't just go there. You got to be a team player with new councils, vet councils, working with them. That's the thing. They're used to this whole status quo, and they don't want to change because again, they're perks. We all know they have perks. So is the mayor, and that's
Yep.
something I also believe in. All these things go to these events. They get free taxis. They get free events. I always believe if I can't pay for it, I'm not going. I don't care if you're the mayor or whatever, but you can't just show up and say because if you calculate, you go for if a mayor gets invited every freebie, they get invited for all these things, sporting events, and all they go in there for free. If you take that money, you could actually feed people with that money, right?
It's like
You know?
celebrities who get like the golden McDonald's card, or always.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
celebrities don't need free clothes. They can afford the clothes. Like
They don't. It's
wouldn't
just
it be nicer? Wouldn't it be better PR to just give your designer clothes to a bunch of homeless people? Just beautiful looking homeless people wearing designer
yeah.
clothes. It's like, whoa. Like oh, and it's functional. Oh,
There's
and
still
it's
a
like stain proof. Well, that's
Yeah, I
amazing.
think there's a store. I don't know if it's still there. It's one on off of Dun or I think it's off of St. Patrick's or Dundas. They used to have people donate, like rich people donate good quality clothes, and they would sell like prom dresses and suits and all that. I don't know if it's still there. This was years ago, but they have it in Los Angeles. They had actually a surprise when I was there in LA. They have this like a lot of celebrities, Hollywood. They actually have places where they can donate, like you said, clothes and stuff like that. That's quality to people that need it, like for jobs or whatever, job seeking and shelters and all. But yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, yeah. The rich people. I got a big ding for the. I did a video about fundraising, like dinners. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
And I said, I will never, because I got offered to do a fundraiser for my election or my campaign, like, was it $150 plate for food? Pay $150 a head. I said, where am I going to eat $150 in food? So I said, this is my view: is I'll never have a fundraiser unless it's an equal status for everybody. Meaning, all my endorsers are all blue collar workers, mothers, I've actually had two people living on the streets endorse me. So my attitude is, if you can endorse me, with your good heart, how can I say I'm going to do a fundraiser and say, sorry, you can't come, you can't afford it. But thanks for endorsing me. It's just the ignorance. Some people like doing fundraisers, and I will do that. And I will never go to segregating. This is a big topic. I got blocked up by Black Votes CA. You heard of them?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember you talked to me off off the record about this, but I'd love for you to tell the audience at home what happened here.
This happened last year. I'm not a racist. They're gonna say you're a hate. I got black. All my nephews are black. All my nephews. You see the pictures. They're all black. Half my family's black. Right. So this is my attitude: is you're invited to an event. Like last year, they had a black community event, and that's great. But they told me that I can't invite any white people or any fellow candidates that are Caucasian. And I said, sorry, I'm not coming. Meaning every debate, me, Isabella, Sarah, other people went, Caucasians, Darren, other people that are like last year. All the debates we went to were all mixed, we're all invited. There was no loophole saying you because you're this certain color or a certain creed or a religion. There's none of that. So come to these events. That's great. You're promoting, like they just had this black community debate there, and I didn't get invited, so I made a big stink about it. I said, "What am I, brown?" Because I am brown. But you know what? If you want to get rid of the segregation, stop holding these kind of events. There's an event a couple years ago for it was a that was a it was a party for all Caucasians and blacks and browns, but they said, sorry, no Asians are invited. I said, sorry, I'm not going. Serious. Yeah, I
What?
couldn't believe it. Yeah, ignorance. Like, oh, yeah, it exists in the city. I phoned them up. I said, well, listen, one of my best friends is a certified anesthesiologist at a major hospital. She's at the top marks in her course, in her degree, right? Jamaican Chinese, and I couldn't bring her along because she's Asian. Said, sorry, I'm not going. I got blackballed for that. Yeah, I don't
Disgusting.
believe segregation stops at the door. Open the doors to everybody. Because I can't just say I'm going to these events and say you can't come because you're a certain color. That's just ignorance. Sorry,
Speaking of racial profiling
ignorant.
and violence and ignorance. The Toronto Police Service race-based data came in and showed that they're 20 times more likely to shoot an unarmed black man, especially a young
Oh
black man, than an armed white suspect.
yeah.
How would you, in the position of mayor, try to curb or affect these kind of trends with the police force and other security forces in the city, and try to lead a trend in the country as a whole when it comes to segregation based off race? We both know that race and race science aren't real. Ethnicity is real. As somebody that it comes from a really diverse and incredibly loving family of a lot of different people from a lot of different nationalities, know that human beings come in a lot of different colors, but at the end of the day, we have the same heart. So,
Too hard.
how
Yeah.
do you deal with this kind of issue that we see, especially in a place that was a British colony in the British Empire? The crown, it's made out of stolen jewels. It's by white supremacists who own
Look
slaves.
at
That's what the British family were.
Well, first look at our city council. The majority is all white. Nothing personal, but I'm white, half white too, half Irish. But I'm just saying, you got 80%, 70% diversified Toronto ethnic backgrounds, over 62 nationalities. Tell me, how many you've seen in City Hall in the last 20 years? None. A few, right? We had a few black people got voted in, great people, Amber Morey, Jamal, Chris Moyes, Alondro, all different nationalities. And what happened when they have committee meetings? They get told by the senior senior staff or senior counselors just stay in your corner and don't make a noise, you know? And that's just the change has to come there, right? Look at Montreal. Montreal has the most diversified city hall staff out of all of Canada. You go on this website, go check out their city staff. They have more city councils than us. They even have, I don't know what they call sub councils or whatever, like under them, and they're all diversified. And because people cried over 25 years ago about, you know, racism, not being city hall. And this is where they're right now. So all these people that are running the same status quo. It's not a case of just race, it's a case of attitude. Like you said, the colonies, like look at this politics. Now in parliament, they have more nationalities, but it's still, I'm going to say it, it's still it's a white man's wet dream. It is. It basically is. That's what it is. No matter who you get, because they have the attitude, because they can't relate to races. They have the same views. Every law in Canada is based on white supremacy, right?
White supremacist, capitalist, colonial
Yeah.
patriarchy, as the writer Bell Hooks always says.
And I'm not,
It's
and I'm not going to just the British because I've got British. I'm from part British myself, but the British. I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to get pissed. All my relatives are going to kill me.
The British
I,
people are different than the British ruling class and the British royal family. Let's say
yeah,
the
no, no,
if
no.
you
I'm
get
not talking about the royal family. I'm talking about the British rule from way back. From way back, there. If you look at I do my world history and ancient history. If you go in all the history of the British rule, the monarchy, not the monarchy, but the empire, giving back the country, like India got back to, they give it back. The British have interfered more times in world history of segregation and demonization and just pilfering, right? British
millions
rule.
dead, millions
The
dead.
Commonwealth, right? We're
Yeah,
called the Commonwealth. You know why we're called the Commonwealth? Because we're called the Commonwealth of all the white people. It's called the Commonwealth. That's a white man's theory. See, all these rules in Toronto, all these things about segregation, about the cops, it's all based on from way back. You know, these are all people that came over, all immigrants. So, by the way, they're all immigrants, white, come from different countries, but they have the same working class attitude. That's why like people like Chloe Brown, Reginald Hall, you know, people I know that are struggling work 3 times as hard to prove themselves. Why? Because you got to rule. You're still under the ruling of the white class,
yeah.
right? At the end of the day, and nothing personally against nothing against, but it's not a case that you're because you're white. No, it's just a case of the rule. You know, even the homelessness. Look at the homelessness. The majority of homelessness. You know that Burnside, he's my counselor in my ward. And he said this statement when they had all the increase in the crimes in the TTC. He said what he said. He said most of the crimes on TTC are people with mental problems. I said, "You buddy, I was pissed. I made a video. I said, you're not even a man. I said, you're full of it. How can you add? Give me your stats. Tell me that the majority of people on TTC have mental problems. Really, you know. So if somebody robs somebody on a TTC, do they have a mental problem? You know, do they have a plan? Oh, they got a mental problem. They robbed you or they hijacked you. They got a mental problem. It's just the ignorance. It's just plain ignorance from way back. Nothing's changed. No matter who gets in right now, and real Olivia Chow's, they said she's gonna get in, but you know what? She's still part of that core status quo. Even though she's Asian and she's a nice lady, I've talked to her many times. She's a great lady, but she's still got to answer to all these people. Because look at the debate. They're attacking her. Bradford's attacking her. They're all attacking her. You know, not because she's a woman, it's because she's also Asian. They see her as an Asian woman, not as an intellect. You know, when I see them debating with and the way they're going on and just diving into her because she's the leading candidate, it's not a case because she's a leading woman, because she's a leading Asian woman. You know, how many colored mayors have we had here in Toronto? We had one woman
Not
mayor.
enough.
That's it. No, it doesn't represent. Okay, if the rest of the world is, I'm being serious. The rest of the world is way ahead of Canada.
Oh yeah.
Technology, innovation, transportation. Yeah, I've been around. You know, I've been around the world. You've been around. You see, you know, like in Italy. Okay, the bike thing. Let's talk about the bike thing. It's so ridiculous.
The
Now
Netherlands,
we got
Italy. I mean, look at
yeah,
we need land bridges. We have animals dying. They
exactly.
can't migrate. We need elevated bike lanes. We need better public transportation. We can both agree on that. And we're failing. We're absolutely failing.
Oh,
And
look at the
we have the revenue, $75 billion generated by the city. We can
yeah.
be doing these ideas that you're pitching.
No, it's stupid. Like in the like in Europe, they have the transportation. Like they got the built with the fastest train from one country to the other in so many hours. That they want to do that here, right? The problem is,
Mayorails, we need them.
yeah, the problem is they plan too much. They consult too much. They go back to have surveys. They have meetings. 5 years later, nothing done. You
You
know,
know,
it's so boring.
fun fact, when the CIA was doing playbooks on how to infiltrate the Black Panthers back in the 60s and 70s, one of the
I read the
things
books
they
on that. Yeah.
yeah, one of the things they'd love to do is always drag things out as long as possible.
Oh
Never
yeah,
do
yeah.
anything, always
No.
just talk, and as soon as you resolve it, bring up the first point again and repeat
Yeah.
it all over again. And and
Like
and
over here.
exactly. It's because politicians love to try to keep their projects as long as possible. We don't incentivize people for finishing jobs. We don't have proper incentive structures. We don't standardize the best technology. Fun fact, Philip, 50 types of mushrooms can break down plastic waste and remain edible, and over 140 can break them down while not even being edible. But we don't standardize these things. We don't standardize our discoveries. We don't standardize our knowledge. We could be living like Star Trek, but we're stuck in Mad Max. And we're just getting further to Mad Max, but it's people like you and that kind of leadership, these kind of mentalities of trying to modernize it, because we have some of the best people in the world. We are one of the most educated countries in the world. And there's a
Yeah,
reason you say this is one of the best places in the world on your website. So
it is.
what do you think you could do, or how do you think things will change with these kind of ideas? How will you push these counselors to work with you on modernizing the city?
You gotta open their eyes. The problem is they don't like learning off other countries. You've seen it, you know. Look at the countries ahead of us. What they're doing. Take an example of there. Take a look at the ones Denmark or whatever. They decrease homelessness right to 2%. What are they doing over there? Even Halifax, even Vancouver, they're working on something right now. The problem is they can't accept change and they don't want to. It's like an ego thing. It's like I don't need to learn anything off ego. I know it all. I'll give you an example. I tested my debate last year. Do you know the Toronto Library is the most renowned library in the world? The Toronto Public Library. I always thought New York was the best library. It is one of the best libraries, but Toronto's got the best system in all the world. And people, I talk to librarians, people come like from other libraries, heads of states, they come over to our library system to learn how it's done so well, and they learn off that, and that's something to be proud of. See, they're learning off us, Toronto Library, learning off our system, how we get it so well done. Community work, people work with people. How our library is so well established, and so why can't we do the same? Learn off other countries. We're talking about green economy. But I think that's for example. You talk about this whole smog with all the fire and the smoke and all that. But talk about green, I forget
Yeah,
subject.
yeah, the air quality index. It
But
today
a lot
was
of,
at yeah, it's
a lot of people
horrifying.
don't really, a lot of people, when I was doing a radio, rad op in the military, studying rad op, but, the ionosphere about AM, FM, when I'll give you an example, when you hear the radio, the FM, they change the frequency of AM, you hear that frequency change, they go like
Yeah.
a static, that, they're changing the frequency, doing crude terms, more technical, radio people know this, they change the frequency to absorb for the ionosphere, which is cooler at nighttime. So I'll give you an example, all this smoke, people don't realize that this pollution, it puts a strain on the electrical system, right? Because the more you're fighting for power through currents and all the smog, it increases the voltage, the demand for air conditioners and all that, right? That's just
Is
an example of smog.
isn't
People don't
that a
realize that.
difference
It just,
between a brownout and a blackout? Is a brownout is caused by pollution or like other
yeah,
parts, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
blackouts are just
Blackouts just blackouts, yeah, blackouts, but they like this, like it's a strain. Any sort of natural factor or like this going on, people think about it. And like not only affects your health inside, but it also affecting your whereabouts. I was talking to people in hydro. They said we got to increase our wattage because it's pollution from the smoke and all is affecting our system. And people don't think about that. Like yeah, it's affecting costs because we're not tackling green economy. You want to get into the subject of green economy?
oh yeah, I would love to talk about the green economy.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, when it comes to because a lot of these fossil fuel companies are terrified by a just transition. They're terrified
You don't want it.
of community energy autonomy.
Oh yeah,
And if
yeah.
cold fusion happens, it's done. Free energy for everybody, basically limitless. We need to accept that our economy has to match our technology. We
Well, the
have to.
greed, it's the
It,
greed factor. That's all it
it
is. It's
is
the greed
definitely
factor.
greed.
I had an interview with Sheena Sharp. She's a big climate lady, nice lady. See the interviews. She actually interviewed me in my second part, and I said, you think all these humongous companies? Well, they're saying we're catering to green economy. We got a certain amount of percentage going to this. I mean, you know what? They're all full of it. You think they want to give up all their millions of dollars for a green economy? No. That's the problem. The greed factor. You got to get that greed factor. As long as that's in there. Well, you got these ads. We be that, the car ads, electric cars. But we also have the option of gas. But that defeats the purpose of having an electric car, right? It's ridiculous. I know people that have that. You turn the switch instead of going from sun, it goes to like a regular engine. So why are you buying that? It gives you an option. It's kind of like, go green all the way. If you want to change the culture, you got to educate people. I said you got to educate people, you got to train people, and you got to work with people, and you got to share the economy. Educate meaning go to high school. They have it right now. You go to high school, go to grade school. You sit up. You got to show kids, the generation to come, how our parents, how we live, wasting. Canada's Canada's one of the most, well, in Toronto, one of the most wasted for anything. Energy, food, entertainment, leisure. Show these kids how we waste things in the past. Show what it's like in the future. In some countries in Europe, they have a bylaw. I talked about in one of my videos and debates. They have a bylaw that you cannot build a new house or a building unless you have these criteria of renewable energy um, parts, equipment, right? So example, if something's missing, if they have two things missing, if they can't meet that to build a house, they can't get that, they can't get their license or whatever, And we don't have that. I talked to guys that say, yeah, we put 10% of the green into the building structure, but he said when it's all cheap, it doesn't last, It just is it's just like a temporary thing, basically, you know. But I said educate people in high schools, and then you got to work. You got to educate. Like our generation, like all the workers now, a lot of people are retiring. All the blue collars are gone. The baby boomers are gone. These people know how to fix
We
things.
we
They
have
don't.
to
There's no
prepare.
there's not enough preparation. They have people having
Yeah.
courses and all, but there's still enough. So you got to work, and you got to work the green. You got to show people how to work. And right now, like your grandfather, my grandfather, they'll do all factory workers, working in plants. Well, that's all gone. It's all economical now. It's all electric. Electric is in. The problem is in 2015 when they signed that accord, we're going to meet the net zero. Uh, Jennifer McKelvey, nice lady, deputy mayor, she made an announcement not too long. I think it was just when the election started. She says we're going to meet 2040. We're going to meet the 2040 the deadline. I said, what about the 2030? And then Green Party, or not Green Party, Green TIA, TEA came on. The lady Davidson, she said we have not met 2030. We're not talking about that, and they're not. We're not going to meet 2030. People think we're going to meet 2030. Okay, they all like Bradford, those people are going to have 46,000 houses in 5 years. Okay, that's not true. Talk to construction workers. I talked to them, laugh their heads off. Where they get these figures from? I go, well, last year, oh no, the year before, they made 792 affordable houses, 792 houses in 1 year after all the paperwork. So you calculate 792 times the next 5 years, you're not going to get 46,000 houses. And you're not even taking account, like I said earlier in the first video, they're not taking account of refugees coming in here, uh, natural disasters, rent increase, people living on the streets. I know people that two people live in cars. There's a family of four living in the station right down near Lawrence Victoria Park. I see them when I go shopping all the time. And they're happy. They know where to go for showers. They take their kids to school. They have a mailbox, and that's how they live
I
because they
mean,
can't afford it.
there's a meme I saw recently that was like, back in the 60s, your parents would say, if you don't take care of yourself and study, you'll be living in a van by the river. And now people say, if you're lucky and you work hard, you could be living in a nice van by the river. Because these
It's funny.
tiny homes, these house vans, they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
we're backsliding. We're instead of trying to we're presenting poverty. I mean, that's great that they're functioning, but we either have to be supporting people living like this more effectively, but I think it shows the root causes aren't being addressed, that these issues are exacerbating.
Well,
And when it
sorry, these candidates, it gets me mad when I see them doing their campaigning. And what pisses me off is it's not a booby prize. It's not a prize that right now homelessness, housing, shelters, right, crime. These are all like the top subjects because they're like booby prizes. We have these plans, before that. You didn't have thing. They said crime and GDC. We got to put more security. Like Brad Bradford has this thing called the guy that went on bail that went threatened the Mayor Candace. He was on bail, so he made this video the other day said like That's why I want these 68 officers for called bail officers, tag officers. I said, what are you talking about, man? That's not the problem. The problem is the community. Crime is the result of frustrations. Go to the community, set up a coalition with the community members and the police board, not handpicked police boards like you see right now. And they're all white, by the way. There's only one black guy there. Like Saunders, he was the police chief. There were three people ahead of him that should have been the police chief, and one black lady, excellent police chief. She should have got that job, but she didn't because they needed a puppet, and they have a puppet right now. But I'm saying, coalitions, go to the community, go talk to the wards. Every ward has a certain amount of crime going on. Some are high, some are low. You go talk to the people. That's where you find out the problem is. Putting officers is just it's just photo ops. We got 68 officers. I was on TTC on subways when they had these officers. You know what they did? Just walked around. That's all
Yeah,
they
look at
did.
the NDP, look at the NYPD. They look at their phones, they don't care. And when it comes to fare evasion, when it comes to 95% of crimes are nonviolent. Crime is
You know,
exacerbated by poverty. And, and,
yeah,
and the 5% of crime that is violent, it's either mental health or it's economically motivated. Drug dealers killing each other, people, domestic violence, which unfortunately police have a high trend for committing domestic violence. And I remember a journalist talking about that Mark Saunders himself, during his term as of police chief, was arrested for a crime that was just swept under the rug. So we
yeah.
see that the police view themselves as different than the citizens. We know that I'm just going to say it. They operate like
You
a gang at times.
you talk about something that people don't talk about domestic violence in the police force. That's true. I
Yeah,
know. I'm going to say right now, I have friends, but I know two people. They're not friends of mine, but they beat the crap out of their wives when they're finished their work as a police officer. I'm gonna get shit up on this, but I don't care. It's true. And the
it
excuse,
is.
you know, you go visit them and you go to a party and like, what's with the wife? She's all beat up. Oh, she fell down the stairs. Come on. You're beating the crap out of your wife. What kind of an officer are you, man?
And
You know?
and look at Ford. Like
And you know what? And Mitchell, is there anything in the police force about abuse programs for people, not just women, also men too. Men get
And
it.
you see, do you know that there used to be for battered women, they would say, call the fire department, not the police, because the fire
Yeah,
department or an EMS is more likely to help you if you're being abused than a police
yeah,
officer. And
yeah.
when we come down to it, we have to understand that we need to reform how we view community safety. Which, as somebody that was in the military, I have one of my closest friends was a part of the Navy. We discussed the fact that we need community safety volunteers. We need to have people that will de-escalate without a weapon. And Ford, as I was trying to say before, removed tuition from police officers and removed their education requirements. We have record high forest fires. We have had record high deaths in hospitals, record high suicides, record high homicides. We don't need free tuition for, if we're going to give free tuition for the police, give free tuition for nurses, give free tuition for doctors, give free tuition for
Exactly.
lawyers, give free tuition for therapists, give free tuition for community service workers, give free tuition for psychologists and psychiatrists. Either give all city service workers that need
Don't forget
education,
students.
ed,
Students get all students.
edu-
Students.
education needs to be free.
It does.
Germany gives even international students free undergraduate education.
Yeah,
If you fail, you don't get it for free.
yeah. And they give
If
back to
you
the community, right? They give
They
back to
do,
the
because
community.
education is a human right. We
Yeah.
need to understand that at the end of the day, our government shouldn't be run like a business. It's providing a service. Society
Right.
is people working together. And if instead we're prioritizing policing over resolving these issues, they're choosing to police you instead of feed you. They're choosing to police you instead of house you. And when people have had enough, what do the police have protocols for? They have protocols to beat up protesters, and they're being militarized for protests. They're not getting trained on how to fight fires. They're not getting trained on what to do if people are hungry. They're not even getting trained on how to evacuate climate catastrophe situations. They're being prepared for resistance of the public, and that should be a troubling and very public discussion, and I'm
They're not
glad that we
even
discussed it.
they're not even properly trained to deal with people with mental issues. Look at the guy that
No.
got killed. 15
Yeah.
officers on one guy. We as
The one
military
the
guys,
on Oh yeah.
we military guys, we look at it like you guys full of shit. You take 15 big muscular officers, take one guy with a mental problem. Why couldn't you phone the number, phone the social worker that has the expertise, the psychologist, how to deal? Not properly trained. They're not.
Are you
50
talking
quid.
about the young man on the streetcar with the knife that got shot up? Or which there's a
No, no,
lot
no.
of the
That's another story. The guy that got shot. That's another. It, what an idiot! You shot the guy like 7 times. What? One bullet wasn't enough?
our taser? Like what
Oh yeah.
why do we
No,
even
but
we're living in
they're not properly
2023.
they're not trained. They're not properly trained. They're not properly trained to deal with people with mental issues. So they should call somebody who have a problem. Instead of 15 officers killing a guy, one of them call like an on-end 24-hour that works for the police, a psychologist or a psychiatrist that knows how to deal with people with mental issues and get them down there on call, right? You know when they have a hostage crisis, who do they call? A hostage
That's a
scenario
negotiator.
officer. Right. Why can't they do the same with people with mental issues, right? They're not trained properly. This is the thing, right?
We got 10 minutes left just to warn
Okay.
you.
All right.
Um, so and when we look at these things, there's ballistic foam, right? There's these things that instantly harden, can encompass somebody in a way that they can't hurt themselves, that's non-toxic. Yet we don't spend money developing better, more efficient, non-lethal ways of dealing with violent individuals. Instead, we make better guns, we make
And type.
tasers that still cause heart attacks, and
Yeah.
effectively we're still giving a lot of and politicians in the United States that were talking about defunding the police were being harassed by the police. When we
Yeah.
look and here I studied criminology at York University. I did interdisciplinary social sciences. I did not graduate. I'm an alumnus. I went on hiatus after my great grandmother died of a preventable illness, which is why I'm running. But when I was looking at criminology, one of the first things they taught us was one, that the police force is the hammer of the state. They do not legally have to protect you. They say protect and serve, but you have to ask protect and serve who. And two, police budgets have never correlated with decreasing crime rates ever.
No. No.
And it's
No.
shocking. It's shocking. But police budgets have never correlated to decreasing crime rates. If anything, crime rates increasing increases police budgets, but the crime rates don't go back down.
No. No.
Why?
No.
I have a friend, I won't name names, whose whole job was to see if alcohol bottles were missing more alcohol than was sold. And what did my friend get fired for? Drinking the bottles and then weighing them. Because if there wasn't alcohol missing, he was out of a job. So why do police like crime? Because it keeps them in the job. We have to deal with these perverse incentives. And if you want people that will actually want to lower crime, incentivize them to actually aid in communities rather than reacting crime. We need to prevent crime, just like we need to prevent illness, just like we need to prevent poverty. And to wrap up, Philip, because we only have about 7 minutes remaining, I want to know, in your heart of hearts, why are you doing this? Why are you running? What is your biggest motivation? Why do you feel like you should represent the people?
Because I am part of the people. I'm a people guy. I've been through every. You can't relate with people unless you've been through experiences. The whole platform is about people. I'm the only one that talks about food security, rent production, rent control, landlords. That's all infrastructure within. Nobody talks about fixing within. They talk about fixing, getting things done outside. You want to fill condos with people. But first, you got to fill people with food, their tummies, right? I only want to help. I'm an old, like, you remember they call the military in to help the nursing homes with the whole COVID? You know what
Oh
they call
yeah,
them
that
in to
was
get the
beautiful.
job done. And that's how we're trained. We're neutral people. We train, our, and everybody matters. You don't kick anybody out of camp. You don't treat anybody crap. I got friends that are homeless. I got friends with missing disabilities. And how I treat them is, how you doing, buddy? What do you want to do today? Take it easy. It's one person at a time. Everybody matters. It's all about people, and you listen to people, and you know what? And return the bloody phone call, counselors and ward members and people running. You don't return the calls. Why they vote you in? If you don't return calls, why bother? So
I'm
my
sure
whole
their
why would I?
donors get return calls. I'm sure
Oh
developers
yeah, yeah,
get
yeah,
return
yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah,
calls.
exactly. Back to the donors thing. Yeah, the endorsement thing. Yeah, exactly. But I say I'm only running to help people. I just want to get. I want to help the city because I see it suffering. You know, we can be working with the people. And I ask the people. I can't run the city alone. I need your help. Okay, you need trust. Put trust in the people. If you can trust me, and just give me a chance to do something. And I said I'll make mistakes. I'm not perfect. Like then I'm talking about making mistakes. They're all doing the perfect platform and all this. Did anyone say like, I'm not sure if I can get this done? They seem to have an answer to everything, but there's no platitude of inconsistency, and there should be some. We're all human. First of all, they ask me, how are you going to fix the budget? Well, like I said earlier, I said I know what the budget is in trending. I'm not gonna lie. How can I say I'm gonna spend $50 million on social services? I know where the money's coming. I got to get in City Hall. That's superficial saying you're gonna get money coming in and I'm gonna defund the police and put it back in social services like Matt Lau says. He's a nice guy. He's a great guy. And actually, I'd have him. I have him my deputy mayor if I got in. He's a nice guy, but they're not realistic.
Great,
These are not. These are all
great
stats,
compromise.
numbers. This is all style campaigning, and they still believe it. And people are still being duped. They say, "Oh, they're the answer. She's got this program. She's got a 74-page program." I said, "Yeah, but where are the numbers? Where are you getting the figures on? They haven't answered the question. They won't look at John Tory. Last year, he had the budget. I asked him point blank, put on paper. He says he's going to get all levels of the government. I talked to all levels of this, and that's not going to happen. I knew that already. And what happened? He didn't get his budget plan. City's on its own. If you stop wasting money in the city to these councillors, to them like $1 million like cheap chump change. You mean you stretching $10 in 2 weeks? That's the people you need in there know how to stretch a dollar, how to do without, how to sacrifice a
How
meal,
to
how to live
buy
on the
that old
streets.
chicken, make stew for a month, you know?
Oh, not yet. And chicken and recycle it. Just spit it out and eat it again. Hey, it tastes good. Tastes good. Second time going around, buddy.
Yep. That's called yeah, an
It's
aperitif.
true, man. It's
3-course
true.
meal, just eat it 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah, just for you know.
Um, one of the things, a little fun thing I think we could end on. How do you feel about chicken coops, and would you fight against the bylaw that stops people from growing food in their front lawns? I think this is because we're talking about food sovereignty. We're
Yeah,
talking about reducing food
it's on my
waste.
platform, right? It's on my platform. It's ridiculous. When I lived in Montreal, they have neighborhood gardens. They have that. I said the city program set up a seed program for fruits or vegetables, one or the other, or both, and a starter kit with a soil test. Let's say you gotta have a soil test sample kit. Go with it. You can't just put things anywhere. And they have it, and they have web systems set up over there, like they have in Europe. I used to do when I used to go when I lived in Italy when I was there in the military. I used to go shopping for my groceries or my vegetables on the neighborhood street. They advertise on a website. So say Sound Street, you go down the street, people are growing stuff in their backyard. You're giving them money, they're making money, and they have a thing with the government. The money they make, they get a little percentage goes back to the government and goes back to community services. And you also have restaurants or local restaurants that are starving for like product, local stuff. They grow like say a restaurant says, here's the list, we'll post on the website. We need this by the end of the week. Whatever neighborhood has, like I got cucumbers for my backyard, I'll sign up, I'll give you that delivery, right? Have a system. Community gardens, a big thing. They have community gardens for the TTC, all the parks there. They have it all set there. I've seen like just grown big time. Do it more. We can recycle so much and recycle things, not just wastage, right? Like I said in the Food Depot
Yeah.
play, you saw the picture there. I got a portion of it for recycled products goes to animal products. Also goes for like building features. They do. The gardener. Talk about tearing the gardener. You could if you recycle all that. I saw in Europe it's been done. You can recycle all that concrete. You can ask. Heard about the Scarborough Junction? They've
Yep.
been wanting to build this for the last 17 years. I did the path with Misha there last year. You could take all that concrete, blast it, clean it, sterilize it, break it up, and use it
Use
as
it again.
gravel.
Oh, gravel.
Exactly. And it doesn't cost as much.
So we got 2 minutes left. What would you like to say? Let's keep it to a sentence. Maybe try to I'm going to link your website in the show notes. It is knowledgeable dash shrimp. Well, I'll link it in the show notes, but just look up Philip DeCruz mayor website. You'll find it instantly. It's a beautiful website. I'm going to put some of Philip's illustrations of his things right at the end here with some music. And once again, thank you so much for coming on By a Thread, Philip. I really hope that if you ever want to have me on your podcast, I'd happily
Oh
be
yeah, yeah.
on
Let's
any
do it. Yeah,
topic.
yeah. Can't do
Uh,
the mirror because mirror thing you can't do it's confrontation. But after the debate, I want to have you on my
after,
show. I
yeah,
definitely have you on
sure.
my show. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, definitely.
that's the thing. So if let's say neither of us get in, Philip, what are you going to be doing for the community if you're not mayor?
Oh, I'm gonna still do my programs. I'm working with the government right now. I'm working with the.
Yes.
I'm still working with the government with the food program. I want to get a grant, and also with the third thing. I don't know if you know about the third thing going on right now. Did you hear my plan of the third?
Mhm. Number 3 is transportation.
Oh yeah, the transfer. Oh, that's big time. Yeah, yeah. Electric taxis, electric bikes.
Electric
Taxi service.
taxis, electric
Yeah, it's
bikes.
the way to
Let's
go.
expand. Let's grow. To the future we go.
Yeah,
Star
yeah,
Trek, not
yeah.
Mad Max, right?
Oh, Star Trek. Yeah, yeah. Deep Space Nine all the way.
Deep Space Nine all the way. Take care, my
Greg,
friend.
thanks for having me. I really appreciate it so much.
I
So
really
I'm gonna have you on my
appreciate
show
you as
after the
well.
election. Definitely have you on the
Thank you
show.
so much. I would love to be there.
Oh
Take
yeah,
care.
yeah, be honored. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
say bye.
Bye
Next
bye.
person.